The galaxy whispered about Earth long before I ever saw its soldiers. Back then, those whispers were all we had. Stories traded in shadowed markets and prison camps. The kind of tales you cling to when hope is a dangerous thing. The Carth Dominion had already broken my world by then. They came out of warped space in a storm of fire, tore through our defense grid like it was nothing more than fog, and turned our skies into burning scars. They burned our cities. They harvested our oceans. They shackled our people with collars that hummed softly while they gnawed at our thoughts. I remember the day they strapped one onto me. I was a healer before the occupation a surgeon, proud of steady hands and a calm mind. The Dominion needed both. They liked their slaves functional. They liked their specialists obedient. The collar ensured obedience. The first time I disobeyed, it spilled acid lightning through my skull until I woke up on the floor, shaking and sick, with the taste of metal on my tongue. After that, I obeyed. We all did. The Dominion was too vast, too old, too used to winning. They ruled with a simple rule: fear first, cruelty second, mercy never. Every species we knew had bent the knee or been bent into the grave. All except one, Earth, just a single dirt ball on the fringe of a forgotten arm. A young species barely a few centuries into spaceflight. By all logic, they should have been a footnote in Dominion history if they appeared at all. But the stories said something else. They said Earth fought back. They said the Carth tried to take that world the way they took everything else. And for the first time, the Dominion lost. Some called humans saviors. Others called them demons. I called them myths. Until the day our leaders, what remained of them, cowering in underground tunnels and encrypted channels, sent a desperate signal into the void, toward that distant, unlikely world. And Earth answered. The day their ships arrived is burned into me. The Carth forced us into the central plaza of the capital. What was left of it? The statues had been toppled, our banners replaced by the Dominion's jagged emblem. The air stank of smoke and the tang of discharged plasma. Above, the sky was streaked with the faint contrails of Carth patrol craft in lazy loops. Confident and bored, Dominion guards ringed the square, weapons slung, some laughing, some recording. We were entertainment. If these rumored humans were real, the Carth meant to crush them in front of us as a lesson. We huddled together, thousands of us, watching the empty sky and pretending we weren't shaking. Then the void tore open. They did not rive in shimmering silver arcs like Dominion warcraft, nor in the crystalline, organic curves of Ilvari cruisers. Earth's fleet erupted from warped space like a swarm of black blades. Their ships were brutal things, angular black hulls bristling with cannons and launch tubes. Engines burning like controlled explosions. No gilded emblems, no banners, just numbers, scars, and weapon signatures. Their flagship was so vast that when it slid into high orbit, the daylight dimmed. A shadow passed across the plaza. We looked up reflexively, as if the sky itself had taken a breath. The Carth guards stopped laughing. One ship detached, then another, then dozens dropships angling toward the surface like iron meteors. One was coming for us, engines screaming, heat washing over the plaza. It hit the ground harder than it needed to, stone cracking under its weight. Dust and hot air blasted outward, sending us stumbling. The Dominion guards raised their weapons, half ready, half unsure. The human shuttle's ramp hissed open. They came out in armor the color of night, plates layered and scarred, helmets smooth with visors that caught the harsh plaza lights and turned them into cold reflections. They moved with a precision I'd never seen, no wasted motion, no glances, no shouted orders. The air around them felt taut. Even the Dominion hesitated. One of the humans stepped forward and removed his helmet with a practiced twist. His skin was pale, dark hair cropped short. His face was all edges and angles, like it had been carved with a blunt knife. But it was his eyes that silenced the square, grey, cold, assessing, predatory. He looked us over, rows and rows of ragged prisoners, then turned to the Dominion guards. "You heard them," he said. His voice carried to well, augmented by some field in his armor. Every syllable landed clearly, unhurried, like he was reciting an observation instead of a crime. "You enslaved them," he went on. "That ends today." The Dominion commander laughed. Several of the guards joined him, a chorus of metallic amusement. Then the humans moved. I have seen battles, our own desperate resistance cells, before they were stamped out. Punitive raids, Dominion discipline squads. I thought I understood violence. I did not. The Carth fought like machines. Tight formations, predictable lines, every motion drilled. The humans fought like the universe had offended them personally. They surged forward in a storm of controlled chaos. Some fired rifles roaring with concussive thunder, each shot ripping through Dominion armor like it was foil. Others closed to melee, blades snapping from forearm housings, gauntlets locking into crushing grips. They slid between plasma bolts, threw themselves into cover, then erupted from it in impossible angles. I watched one human shoulder charge a Carth overseer in a powered exosuit. The impact staggered the machine. Before the overseer could recover, the human was climbing him, armored boots digging in, fingers wrenching at seams. With a guttural roar, the human tore the overseer from the cockpit, cables and hydraulic fluid spraying like blood. Another human took a bolt full-on to the chest. The impact threw him back. He hit the ground, rolled, laughter short, sharp bark through his helmet and got back up, charging again as if being shot was an inconvenience. The plaza became a slaughterhouse. Carth soldiers, who had made an art of other people's terror, began to scream. Then they began to run. I had never seen Dominion troops break, not truly. They might retreat, regroup, recalibrate, but this was panic. Their lines dissolved into scattered individuals fleeing for any exit they could find. The humans hunted them. When it was over, the plaza was littered with broken bodies and smoking metal. Human soldiers stood among the wreckage, armor scorched, some bleeding, some laughing, some simply breathing hard. They checked each other for wounds with quick, efficient gestures, slapped shoulders, traded short bursts of harsh language I didn't understand. One of them turned toward us. His visor was still down, streaked with something dark that I didn't want to identify. He raised his hands slightly, palms open. "Don't be afraid," he said, his voice muffled but clear. "We're here to help." No one moved. No one cheered. We had prayed for saviors. Earth had sent us monsters. Campaign weeks blurred into each other after that. The humans spread across the planet like a wildfire that had found fuel and purpose. They didn't negotiate with the Carth. They didn't offer terms. They didn't take prisoners, not from the Dominion. Wherever their dropships landed, Dominion strongholds were reduced to gutted shells and scorched craters. When I finally worked up the courage to ask one of their officers what their orders were, he answered without hesitation. "Extinction Protocol," he said. "The Carth don't stop unless you break them. So we break them. Simple. Horrifying. Effective. I traveled with them because I had no choice. Someone in their command realized that if they wanted to keep my people alive, they'd need someone who understood our biology. Their medics were terrifying in their own way, brutally efficient, with field kits that could knit shattered bone and regrow tissue with obscene speed. But alien physiology was guesswork for them, so they conscripted me. With our leader's frantic nods of agreement and my own shaking hands, we moved from front to front in armored transports that hummed with suppressed violence. I treated shattered limbs and burned flesh. I watched humans go back into battle with injuries that would have confined my people to bed rest for months. They took painkillers like candy and laughed with broken ribs. They fought with more than weapons. They fought with something dark inside them, a furnace that had been banked but never fully extinguished. Around campfires or in the flickering glow of portable heaters, they told each other stories, wars on their own world, conflicts as old as their earliest history, entire continents scarred, nations burned, brothers killing brothers for borders, ideologies, resources, pride. They had been practicing for this long before they ever left their atmosphere. "How do you survive it?" I asked one soldier during a rare quiet stretch. He was young by their standards, older than me by years, younger than most of their officers. His name, I'd learned, was Reyes. We sat outside a temporary triage tent, watching dusk bleed across a sky still hazed by smoke. He was cleaning his rifle with a ritualistic focus, fingers moving automatically. "Survive what?" he said. "All of this," I said, gesturing vaguely the battlefield, the burned horizon, the half-healed scars on his face, the horror, the killing. "How do you keep going?" He paused, then set the rifle aside and looked at his hands. "We already broke," he said. His voice was quiet, the bravado stripped away. "Back home, different wars, same story. We learned what we're capable of a long time ago. Earth made us this way." He glanced at me, a tired half-smile tugging at his mouth. "Shadows of mercy. That's what one of our poets called us. Shadows of mercy," I repeated, tasting the words. "Yeah." He leaned back, staring up at the first stars. "Seems about right." For all their ferocity, that wasn't all they were. Between battles, when the sky stopped screaming and the guns cooled, the humans changed. The same soldier who had snapped a Carth's spine with his bare hands in the morning would spend the evening helping children rebuild a wall round a broken village. I watched one towering human kneel in the dirt, letting a group of local children climb over his armored back, as if he were some kind of playground structure. His helmet was off, He had a jagged scar across his jaw and a missing ear. One of the children placed a clumsy flower crown on his head. He held still, huge hands hovering uncertainly, as if afraid to crush something so fragile. They shared rations with the starving, even when their own supply lines were stretched. They set up perimeter alarms and taught our farmers rudimentary tactics, insisting that no settlement remain unfortified. They patched roofs. They fixed broken water purifiers. None of that was in their orders. They did it anyway. They were contradictions, beasts in war, caretakers in peace. One night, as I stitched a ragged gash in Captain Hawk's side, yes, that was truly his name, or at least the one everyone used, he studied me with that same predator's gaze I remembered from the plaza. "You're afraid of us," he said. There was no accusation in it, just a statement. Yes, I admitted. Lying to a man like him felt dangerous in ways my collar never had. Good. He didn't flinch when I tightened the suture. Fear keeps you alive. He was silent for a few heartbeats, then added, "But don't mistake us. We don't want to be here." His tone shifted, just a fraction. "We'd rather be home. The only reason we fight this hard is because we know what happens if we don't. The Carth won't stop." He met my eyes again. For a moment, the steel there softened, revealing something raw beneath. "Neither will we," he said. "We are what the galaxy made us. Not saviors, not heroes, just the monsters you need." There was nothing I could say to that. Word of Earth's interventions spread faster than any official transmission. Smugglers, refugees, hacked Dominion channels all carried the same rumor. The Carth were faltering, not because of a rival empire or a grand alliance, but because of one savage little world that refused to play by the rules. Other species noticed. Outposts that had once bowed to the Dominion began to rise. Resistance cells flickered to life across occupied sectors like sparks on dry plains. Seeing the Carth bleed proved something no speech ever could. They were not invincible. The humans had unleashed something larger than themselves. It wasn't clean. It wasn't noble, but it was effective. I saw humans die, too. They fell in battle, their bodies finally reaching limits their spirits refused to see. Each death hit their comrades like a physical blow. I attended more funerals than I can count. They buried their dead with rituals that were, like them, both brutal and tender. Sometimes they burned the bodies, sending smoke and ashes into the sky. Sometimes they buried them deep, carving names into steel plates afterwards and bolting those plates to their armor, their weapons, their ships. They drank in their memory, passed around flasks and stories, laughing and crying in equal measure. They swore vengeance aloud for each fallen comrade, like it was a contract with the universe. One night after a particularly brutal siege, I found Reyes sitting alone away from the firelight, his hands hanging between his knees, staring at them like he didn't recognize them. "They call us monsters," he said without looking up when he sensed me. "Yes," I said softly. "Do you believe that?" There was no challenge in the question, just weary curiosity. I thought of the plaza, of broken Carth bodies, of flower crowns on armored heads, of children sleeping inside walls human hands had rebuilt, of the way Hawk's voice had softened for a heartbeat when he spoke of home. "I do," I said at last. "Which are our monsters?" He huffed out a breath, something like a laugh and a sob twisted together. Then he gave me a crooked smile. "Good enough. The final battle for my world came from the sky. The Carth brought a dreadnought. It descended from orbit like a black sun, larger than any ship I had ever seen. Its hull bristled with weapons that could level continents. Even from the ground, I could see the corona of charged energy building along its flanks. One sustained bombardment would finish what their occupation had started. Our people despaired. Some fell to their knees. Others simply stared up, hollow-eyed, waiting for the end. The humans, they grinned. "Biggest prey yet," Captain Hawk muttered, watching the dreadnought cut through the clouds. Mount up. They didn't respond with a fleet engagement. They didn't scramble fighters for a noble last stand. They loaded drop pods' armored cylinders packed with soldiers and explosives, and fired them like bullets at the dreadnought's hull. I tried to argue when they ordered me into one of the pods with the medics. "I'm not a soldier," I protested. Hawk just looked at me. "Our people will be bleeding in there. So will yours. We need you." That was all. The drop pod's interior was cramped, stinking of sweat, oil, and recycled air. I was strapped in between Reyes and a medic named Nkiro, both calm in the face of imminent death. The launch was a punch to the gut. Gravity vanished, then screamed back with a vengeance as the pod hurtled upward. The impact against the dreadnought's hull was like being inside a hammer. Metal shrieked. The pod bit through armor, slammed to a halt, then blew its doors outward in a burst of fire and shrapnel. We spilled into hell. The interior of the dreadnought was a maze of dark corridors, pulsing conduits, and roaring alarms. The Carth threw everything at us gene-forged abominations stitched from a dozen species. Plasma storms that turned bulkheads into molten rivers. Legions of war machines that walked on too many legs and spoke only in targeting solutions. The humans tore through them. They took casualties. Many. Men and women went down, some screaming, some in stunned silence. Medics hauling them aside while the others pushed forward. I moved with them, dragged from one bleeding body to the next, sealing wounds, injecting stimulants, patching armor with shaking hands. At one point, a hulking bioweapon smashed through a wall in a spray of sparks and gore. It was taller than a shuttle, armored in bone and steel, eyes glowing with Carth control glyphs. It grabbed a human in each claw and squeezed. Hawk hit it like a meteor. His armor was shattered in places, one arm plate hanging uselessly, blood seeping from under his breastplate. He emptied an entire magazine of some hyper-dense projectile weapon into the creature's chest, then dove under its swing, driving a monoblade up into the softer tissue under its jaw. It shrieked, flailed, and crashed to the deck, twitching. "We keep moving," he roared. "Core or bust." We reached the dreadnought's reactor core, an enormous chamber, filled with a humming sphere of caged energy. Carth engineers and elite guards were already there, waiting, weapons primed. The fight that followed was short, vicious, and costly. When the last Dominion soldier fell, the chamber stank of burned flesh and ozone. Bodies, Carth and human alike, littered the walkways. Hawk staggered toward the control platform, one hand pressed to his side, where armor and flesh had both given way. Blood dripped with each step, spattering the meter-steel floor. He knelt by the main reactor control, pulling charges from his belt with fingers that trembled but never dropped them. "You're bleeding too much," I said, moving to his side. We need this thing dead more," he rasped. His lips were stained red. "Priorities, Doc." He'd planted the last charge at the base of the reactor housing and keyed in a sequence, his eyes narrowing in concentration. "Evac routes?" Nkiru asked over the squad channel. "Short," Hawk said. "Violent. Standard issue." He finished the sequence and looked up at me. The detonation timer flashed a silent countdown in his visor display. I saw the reflection of the spinning numbers in his eyes. "Time to go," he said. We ran. I don't remember all of it. Just flashes. Corridor after corridor. Lights strobing red. A blast door jamming, and Reyes hurling himself into the gap to force it open, muscles screaming. The distant, rising whine of an unstable reactor. We dove into the last pod just as the deck shook violently. The ship's internal gravity glitched, sending us weightless, then slamming us down again. "Punch it!" someone yelled. The pod launched, tearing free from the dreadnought's guts, streaking toward the planet below. Through the tiny viewport, I saw the colossal ship crack along its spine. Light spilled from it, blinding and pure, as if something inside had finally gotten free. Then the dreadnought came apart, blooming into a silent flower of fire in the upper atmosphere. The shockwave rolled through our pod, making every bolt groan. For a heartbeat, I thought we would follow the dreadnought into oblivion. We didn't. We slammed into atmosphere, then into our world, the impact driving breath from our lungs. When the hatch blew open, I crawled out onto scorched soil. Above, the sky was clearing. No Carth ships, no dreadnought, no orbital bombardment, just stars. Around me, humans dragged themselves from the wreckage, laughing and coughing, checking their weapons as if an entire dreadnought hadn't just exploded behind us. Reyes flopped down next to me, staring up at the sky. "See," he panted. "Told you we're good at this." I looked at him, at the others, at the distant shapes of more human ships in the sky, securing what they had bought in blood. Our world was not healed, not free of scars, but it was no longer under the Dominion's boot. I thought of all the stories I'd heard about Earth. Saviors, demons, myths. Now I knew the truth. They were monsters. And for the first time in a very long time, those monsters were ours.